Welcome to episode number 7 of Trademutt's 120 Grit podcast. Dan and I are lucky enough to have founder of Blokepedia, Josh Quarmby, with us. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you very much, Ed. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for coming in, mate. First of all, tell us, what is Blokepedia?
So Blokepedia, I started about 2.5 years ago as a blog site initially, as a way of encouraging men to start having conversations around those issues impacting their lives. So I guess talking about all things bloke, trying to get a little bit deeper than the cars and sports that we're used to talking to at the pub. So started a blog site to basically encourage that discussion. And 2.5 years later, we've gone from doing blog sites to now doing events and running programs aimed at promoting positive discussion around men's health and well-being, as well as giving guys the tools to, navigate their lives.
Awesome.
Mate, Ed forgot to say to you in the intro, 120 grit, rough enough to take the surface off.
Oh, yes.
Without tearing it apart. Little sandpaper reference. So
There you go. Especially with the Ashes going on at the moment.
Ooh. Ouch. Are you ready to have your surface roughed up a little bit?
Always.
So I read on your LinkedIn page,
Yes.
little blog that you wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Very well read, or well written, I should say. But you talk about your father, losing your father at a young age, and how that sort of has moulded you a bit.
Yeah, and I think that was pretty much what got Blokepedia started and kind of took me on this journey that I've been on now for a while. I starting the blog site, the first article that I wrote was about losing my dad as a 15-year-old and how that impacted my life going into manhood. I guess for years didn't really deal with the loss and the grief, and like many people do, bottled that emotion. And I guess over the years, that kind of like a pressure cooker would release in probably negative ways that it shouldn't have. So I was angry at times, moody, bit of a prick at times, and so I spoke about that loss and how not dealing with it impacted me negatively, and also impacted the relationships I had.
Why don't you think you dealt with it at the time?
I think part of it was, this thought that I'm all right, and that, growing up thinking that I didn't need to talk about my emotions and how I was feeling, and that, no, I'm good, when really I wasn't.
Yeah.
But that took, 15, and it took me till starting Blokepedia almost to go, holy shit, that was really impacting my life. And the experience of writing it down and actually sharing with people, like sharing with the world essentially, that I wasn't feeling good, was really quite cathartic and almost soothing in a way to be able to talk about it. It was big time. Yeah, so I had friends of mine that that I'd known for years. They called me going, never knew you lost your father. I never knew you.
Wow.
That impacted your life. And then that started conversations, that my mates would, go, yeah, look, I went through a similar situation, and then kind of got the ball rolling to actually talk about things.
So did you ever talk about it, obviously, from the age of 15, like, did you ever talk to anyone about it, like, at all, or was it always just processing it?
Yeah, no, I know that my mum encouraged all of us kids to go and see a counsellor at times, and I think just the way that counsellors are kind of portrayed, you think, oh, well, obviously something's wrong with me if I need to go and see a counsellor. So I'd go along and, play the game, and, all good, and off I went, and then, but never really deal with
So
it.
that was going to the counsellor to appease your mum and sort of make it look like you were doing something positive, but when you would talk to the counsellor, you're sort of still just putting on a bit of a front.
Exactly. 16, 14, 15-year-old, 15, 16-year-old boy, and I'm all right,
6
so
foot tall, bulletproof.
Exactly. You go in and you're all guarded, and you grunt and make the right noises when need to, and off you go, and get on with things.
Did you go in there speaking to a counsellor with the preconceived idea that you weren't going to get along with this person no matter what, or that they weren't going to help you at all?
Oh, I think you're right. I think I just go in and go, I don't want to see this bloke. What's he know about
you don't
me?
know me.
Yeah,
That's an interesting point, because when it comes to help-seeking behaviour for guys, how much of a role do you think that actually plays in reaching out to a potential, someone who is a professional in the field and who can help work through things? How much of a role do you reckon that plays?
Our perceptions
and, who this person is, and they're not going to actually be able to help me because they don't get me, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of it, and I think until as I matured and was talking to more guys like yourselves and even mates of mine who, tradies in the construction industry, they're going, oh yeah, I went and saw a counsellor or a psychologist when I went through, a divorce or whatever it might have been, that you kind of go, it's actually not that uncommon and there's nothing wrong with going to do it. So, I guess, if you bung your knee or whatever, you're going to go and see a doctor, but if there's something wrong with you and your mental health or, stuff that's going on in your life, I think you need to be able to look at it the same way as what you would your physical health and go and see a professional to help you deal with it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's just changing that perception. And like that conversation you're having with your mates, then you understood that actually there's a fair few people out there doing it already. So it's actually, people just aren't talking about it enough.
So we've had a couple of guests in here recently. Rupert Ballinger was in here, and he had a profound story of losing his father at the age of 12. And then Dennis Rush we had in recently as well, and he lost his father at the age of 15. But in both cases, I think it's a long period through those formative years and late teens, early 20s to actually come to terms with and process what you've been through. Do you find that to be the case in your situation as well, that it's been like a long sort of growth period of kind of trying to understand and figure out exactly how it went down and how you've processed it all?
Yeah, I think when I lost Dad, it was an interesting time anyway, because Mum and Dad divorced when I was quite young, when I was 9 years old. So we didn't have the strongest relationship. And we just
your father and yourself.
Sorry, my father and myself, we didn't have the greatest relationship, just due to that. So when I lost him, it was kind of dealing with that anger and then, the loss and the hurt and all that kind of stuff, and at the same time trying to be this, stoic man of the house, because I thought, well, in the absence of my father, I've been the man of the house, so stiff upper lip and all that. So it wasn't until, that I probably things would happen in life, and you'd kind of realise that you did miss that person, and that you like it could be something as simple as a school graduation, or getting married was a big one recently. That you do kind of realise the significance of the loss. I think for me as well, though, I was really lucky in that I had some really good male role models around me, and my uncles, and even strong female role models as well. So it wasn't like there was an absence of that, like some.
You didn't feel isolated.
No, that's right. Yeah. Like some people do when they experience that kind of loss, that they do not have anyone to turn to. So I was kind of
That was going to be my next question. Who did you sort of turn to for role models? But I guess so. You're talking uncles on your mum's side.
Yeah. We've got a very, very close family.
Type family.
Yeah. So they have always been there. So really lucky to have had those people. Older cousins as well. So it was definitely well supported in that regard.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was you said, there was a bit of a turning point for you to start Blokepedia.
Yeah.
What was when did you realise that you had to start, writing these things down and sort of putting your thoughts out on the paper?
To be honest, it was not deliberate in any way to kind of go out and, establish this organisation that it's become now. It was, there was... I kind of saw that there was a need for guys to start talking about these things, so I was encouraging fellas to start sharing their stories. So they was, sharing them, and I'd post them on this website and stuff. So really, from doing that was like, because ask people to talk about travel or whatever they were kind of going through. And then over time, we kind of whittled it down and started focusing on, I guess, those real issues that impact us in the day-to-day. So, you know, your health and your lifestyle and your career and stuff like that, as well as your relationships. So kind of became more focused over time and grew organically. I think obviously the story about Dad was the one that kind of got me started. But I guess what motivates me to keep going is the guys that you talk to, and women as well, that you talk to in day-to-day to kind of go, hey, this is really important what you guys are doing, because they then share a story about, you know, their life or someone that they know, you know. So whilst my own story was what kicked the ball off, it's the other stuff that really is driving me to go, you know, keep going every day.
That's awesome, yeah, and I guess that's sort of how it is, isn't it, too, because you start, you know, in one direction, and, you know, once you put yourself out there, it's incredible, you know, what other results that you don't kind of see come out of it. So that process for you of writing down your story, you were saying it was quite a cathartic process. How important do you think it is? Because we're obviously all about, and as are you, about blokes having conversations and talking openly about different things they've been through, as much as anything, just as a way to process what they've actually been through. But the reality is there's a lot of guys out there who just can't find the strength to talk about it. But that doesn't mean that you can't write it down, you know?
Yeah.
How important do you reckon it is, just in any form at all, to be able to get out of your head what is going on?
I think the important thing to do for me, you know, I enjoyed writing. When I sat down to write that story, I didn't realise the impact that it would have on me doing it. I remember crying, you know, for quite a while, kind of going, holy shit, you know, this is really coming all to the surface. And so that for me worked, you know, but that's not going to work for every guy, you know. And I think, you know, it's all about finding your group and being in a position that you're actually comfortable to share with, you know.
That community.
Exactly. And it is finding, you know, your tribe, or, you know, those bunch of guys or girls or whatever that you feel safe to talk about it. And sometimes you don't even have to talk about it. It might be just that you feel safe in just being with them and that you feel comfortable, and maybe over time it might be that you share a little bit, you know. I think it's all about not rushing the conversation, but doing it in a time that, you know, is comfortable for you, yeah.
Definitely.
And that's the key, I think, isn't it? Creating a space where people actually just feel accepted, understood and supported. And then the rest will happen, I guess, when it needs to.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, talking about things, that sharing your story is probably only, it's part of a bigger puzzle that you need to do anyway, you know, when it comes to your mental health and your well-being, you know. Got to look after your physical health and exercise, diet, sleep, all of that stuff as well. And obviously those conversations and the social connection is part of that big puzzle as well.
Based around the entire thing.
I think so.
It's all encompassing. That's what we're trying to get across here too, is that it's not just, the mental health side of things. It's, you know, physical and nutritional as well. And it's, you know, it's imperative to be looking after all three facets to make sure that, you know, for lack of a better word, best version of yourself.
Yeah.
We've tried to cut that out, haven't we?
Well, it's just there's not many other alternatives.
The best version of yourself.
The buzzwords.
Yeah, mental wellness, all that sort of stuff. But it is all true, and the more we talk about it, you know, it's just normalising it, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about it right now, which is...
And it is a bit new, but it's necessary because blokes are killing themselves, and, you know, without a changing the culture and the way we perceive, you know, this subject, nothing's going to change, is it?
Well, that's right. You know, I think, you know, and the work that you guys are doing, the conversation started, and you can't get a brighter conversation started than that. You know, I know that guy that I go to the gym with, he does Trademark Thursdays with his crew. And so in that, started the conversation with me. I said, oh, no, the guys for
so it's working.
Awesome.
It's out
working.
there.
It's
awesome.
working, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first Blokepedia event?
I do, yeah. Had it at the Victoria Park Golf Club.
Lost plenty of balls there. Old Vicky Park.
I tell you what, they should have a big equanimity sign when you walk up to the first tee.
Yeah, I haven't played there in a while.
Yeah, no, you've lost a few golf clubs there too, haven't you?
Yeah.
So that first event, Vic Park.
Yep.
How can you remember how that went down? Who you had there, and how who you had speaking there, and how many people were there?
Yeah.
Attending.
Oh, geez.
Just to blast from the past here.
It was, and I look at that event now as to the ones that we run now. You know, it was very much that lecture style kind of.
Here, yeah.
Exactly. So people stand at the podium.
The one thing guys like, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Better goddamn listen to this.
yeah. You will listen, and you will listen well.
Yeah.
I had some really good speakers on that night. I think we had 4 or 5 guys talk. There's 80 people there. I think mostly my family and friends.
That's 80 people.
They're the only people who have bought
sold
our
up.
shirts, our family and friends.
That's right. Yeah, so I had Justin Gange from.
Oh yeah,
Mates
he's
in
coming on the
Construction.
podcast. So
He's coming
we've
in.
got him coming on.
Oh, gem of a man.
He's a legend.
Lovely
The
guy.
Buck
Buck the Bronco.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Dude, total
Unbelievable.
Dude. So he's
Oh.
coming in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Tell him to bring in his guitar.
Oh really?
Can sing.
Yeah, well, he sent us through that
And
video
he
of
won't be
him on.
afraid of these cameras either.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be playing up to them.
Awesome, right? Yeah, we'll have to play it up then. Yeah, cool. Well, we can't wait to meet him then.
No, he's a good
Yeah.
bloke. So we had Justin, Dave Shillington, Shillo, who has now jumped on board as one of the directors of Blokepedia.
So who did Dave Shillington play for? He was a
Raider for a
Raider,
while,
wasn't he?
Canberra Raiders.
Yeah.
I think he started with the Roosters
That's right.
early in his career, and then went to the Raiders and finished off at the mighty Gold Coast
Yeah.
Titans.
Nice.
So I had him, another fella, Daryl Green, who was a former police officer, got shot in the line of duty.
Wow.
So he had a pretty interesting story to tell. And a guy by the name of Peter Rowe, who has got Down syndrome and actually communicates through facilitated communication. So he's
Whoa.
actually...
Wow.
He's a remarkable man, yeah. So he's based on the sunny coast, and he just understands what Blokepedia is about. He will actually type out what he needs to say on this kind of board, and
How did you come across? How did you come to meet him?
I think through social media. Yeah, I thought this guy's amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so I went. He's very much into his artwork and stuff. So I went and spent some time with him in his art studio and on the sunny coast, and asked him to come and speak, and he did such a great job, and talks about the power of and the importance of community and connection. So, and that's to me what Blokepedia is very much about, is creating a community that people are able to connect and start sharing their stories.
Mate, that's awesome. So has it changed in the way you anticipate it to be after your first event?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit more relaxed. It is. Vicky Park was a great location to have it there for the launch event, and but really, for me, it's really important to have it in an environment that guys feel safe to have that conversation or feel that they can, throw up their hand and get involved. So it is not so much that theatre style stand and deliver that we did before, but
More conversational.
It is conversational. Panel discussion, guys sitting around, maybe have a beer and a bit of pizza or whatever it might be. So it's about creating that environment that people can go, it's actually quite a good night out to actually go to a Blokepedia event.
Yeah.
Here's some good stories, and it's not talking
And you're happy
about,
to tell your mates about it at work the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Not going, I just went and listened to these guys rabbit on about mental health and depression for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, that you're actually going and you're taking away something that's going to be valuable to
That's
use
awesome.
in your everyday life, yeah.
So what do you think is the reason there's been a break? Do you feel there's been a breakdown in community feel like these days? Like there's not as many community events or not as many people come together? Like we're very well connected, but at the same time we're very isolated. Do you feel that?
I definitely feel that, yeah. I think, I think social media's got a lot to answer for. It's a great tool for connecting with each other, but I don't think we're connecting on the level that we used to,
Very surface level.
Yeah, I grew up in country New South Wales, where you'd kick the as a kid, kick the ball to your neighbours, and you knew what everyone was doing. You'd run around and go to barbecues and stuff on the weekend, and really there was a good community feel, through soccer clubs and various other groups.
Whereabouts? What town?
Cootamundra.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so birthplace of Sir Donald Bradman.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Claim to fame.
That's it. Yeah, that and Josh Quarmby.
That's how I know Cootamungs are. Yeah,
It wasn't the Don.
Nah, yeah, nice.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so I think, I think there is definitely a bit of that community feel missing of late, but, movements like Trademark and these other organisations, Blokepedia as well, where they're encouraging that connection. It's kind of sad in a way that we've gotten to that point, but at least we're actively promoting that importance of of the connection.
Well, we're quickly trying to unfuck what we've ruined. We're trying to claw our way back, aren't we?
But maybe we just have to blow up mobile phones, technology on Facebook or something.
Well, it's an interesting one. Like, you think, for me, I just look at bowls clubs in Brisbane, right?
Like lawn bowls.
Yeah, lawn bowls. I couldn't think of a single lawn bowl except Toowong that's going because of the uni that's left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Balmoral Bowls Club shut down, the Newmarket Bowls Club, the one here in East Brisbane, they're all just dead. So it's sort of like that would have been a thriving community hub 30 years ago.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Everyone would have been down there having a few schooners, catching up with their mates. That's all. That doesn't exist. Yeah. So what are they? What are those blokes doing now, and women doing now to feel that sense of community? It's like, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Where do people go?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you talk about social media, and the thing, its biggest strength is also its biggest weakness, sort of as well. But it's it's great. Like, you can have we've got family all over the world, and all that sort of stuff, and you can stay in touch, or you can pick up the phone and you can FaceTime, and you can see someone face to face, and in that way it's awesome. But I think at the same time, probably people are feeling, because of that they've got everything in the palm of their hand, and they're not going out searching for for more social activities to do.
I suppose my point is that how do we make people understand that having a community or being a part of a community is actually a really
move to a country town.
Move to a country town.
Move to a country town and go and see how they do it, because every time, even Mount Isa, we were in Mount Isa on the weekend and chatting to Tonka and Renita, and they were saying, if anyone in Mount Isa, no matter what, if anyone is on the bones of their ass or struggling or got anything going on, doesn't matter if no one in the town likes them or not, everyone will rally around and whoever it is and help them out and get them back on their feet and try and really get behind them, and that's unique to country towns.
Yeah, and I know we did an event out in Claremont last year. They do this event every year, Jugs and Jocks, and it's
that sounds fun.
Oh, I didn't get to go. It's Shillo and Dr. Clive went out there. Gary Mills, another guy that's involved with Blokepedia. They went out there, and it was a men's only event. So it was to basically encourage guys to get together, talk about mental health and well-being. I think there's 120 guys rocked up.
Shit.
Some of them were pushed through the door by their wives and stuff.
Get in there.
Heard some really positive stories that following it, that guys were actually going, that was really good. That my son was saying that he guys that took their sons along started those conversations and stuff. So I think country towns do it really well, and I think maybe in these bigger places like Brizzy and Sydney and stuff, that you probably feel a little bit more disconnected from that community, just due to the size of the place.
Well, I mean, the other flip side of it is with country towns is, obviously, suicide rates are quite high, in country towns. I guess the isolation part also comes into it as well, probably particularly when you are younger, teens, late teens, early 20s, looking for opportunities or whatever. If you're there and you're well established, well then, that sense of community is probably fantastic. But there's, I think, probably also a lot of younger generations, who are living in remote communities that are feeling a bit isolated and not sure where to go or want to get out, or, looking for opportunities.
It's, I mean, the re-emergence of more sporting clubs is the most important part for rural communities. Like back in the day when my parents were first dating, everyone used to have a tennis party. Like you just drive over to every Friday, someone would have a tennis party.
A tennis party.
But that was it. Like everyone had a tennis court.
Yeah.
Everyone used to go play tennis. Yeah. But now that doesn't happen anymore. Again, like it's just sort of, that part of the community feels died out.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's important that we try and re-engage people to come back together. Like me personally, it's hard in Brisbane, obviously, because it's so big, but I've just made little changes recently, like just trying to meet more people. Like I was talking about Jenny from the gym.
Yep.
Like I know Jenny now, so every morning I say good day to Jenny. Like it's a lot easier to not go in there and say hello, but now we've got that connection, you know. And like Tom and Troy here at the coffee shop, go over there every morning, have a chat with them for 10, 15 minutes. It's great. You know, I really like it's far more enjoyable.
It's great for me too because I've managed to offload him a little bit to some other people, so I don't have to put up with it all the time.
I'm annoying everyone else, but I think that could be little things that people can introduce. You know the bus driver's name when you're going to work. Learn, meet those people because you make that connection, and then
it's taking the time, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think
it's not that hard.
It's not that hard. Around.
Yeah, just take that 5 minutes because you're there waiting for your coffee.
It's not that hard if you understand the art of conversation and putting yourself out there, and that is something that has really been lost in the past. Well, this sort of generation, the past 10, 15 years with social media. We're so much more connected now digitally. You know, we don't have to talk to people. We don't have to have conversations as much as what we once did. And it's genuinely an art, right?
Yeah.
Knowing how to and have the confidence to strike up a conversation with a random. And I guess that's what we're trying to do, with trademark shirts is really, it's a real visual stimulus to starting that conversation.
The catalyst, yeah.
Yeah, recognising, oh, hey, I know what that shirt's about. We hear those stories all the time of people connecting with each other, just complete randoms. And that's gold. Like, that's what it's all about. Human connection, human interaction, just cutting the bullshit and just having a yarn with someone, non-judgmental, all that sort of stuff, just keeping it real.
Definitely.
At what point did you know Blokepedia was, you wanted to give it a red hot crack?
I've certainly had moments where I've gone, Jesus, what am I doing? Because it is, I think, doing something well like Blokepedia, and is so important, that you can't just kind of dabble in it. You got to, as you say, give it a red hot crack. I think there was a couple of times, and there's a couple of things that are always kind of on my mind to continue going with it and to develop it. And one of them was a guy that I knew, called him one day for a beer on a Friday arvo, and said, hey, I want to catch up for a beer. And he, look, actually, mate, he says, I'm going to go and see a counsellor. All this stuff that you're putting out there about mental health and, guys having to talk about their shit. Well, yeah, I've started to see this counsellor because I wasn't coping. Bloody hell, yeah. And this guy's a, real blokey kind of bloke. And I thought, Jesus, okay, this is actually...
That's a win.
It's rubbing off.
That's a massive win there, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's those little, well, they're not little, they are massive, that if you can change, and it's a little bit buzzword-ish as well, but, if you're able to impact one person's life by the work that you're doing and change it, and I think that is a real plus, I guess we're motivated and inspired by people who actually are sharing their stories and making changes in their life or benefiting from attending an event, and for me that's a real positive, So, and I think the way that we're going about it is pretty cool, that we're trying to take these conversations around men's health and well-being to the pubs and to the places that guys
relatable
feel comfortable.
Areas.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's awesome, mate. So what about you? How do you look after your own mental health?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something that I've had to really look at lately, or in the last 12 months, to kind of make sure that I'm walking the walk. So I've joined a gym that I go to 3 times a week. It's actually an over 30s men's club that I do. So it's all these blokes. Yeah.
Another community.
Exactly. It's exactly what they're doing. It's a community, blokes are all just trying to, get a bit fitter and look after their bodies a little bit better as well. So, I go there 3 times a week, have good yarn with the fellas before and after the training. We went to the pub together on Saturday as well. So it's having
awesome,
that
mate.
connection as well. And I think for me as well, in something that I've learnt through Blokepedia is to, if I'm struggling with things, is to actually have that conversation with my wife about, hey, this is how I'm feeling, and being a little bit more open and more vulnerable in and it doesn't need to be all doom and gloom. It could be just something little, but to go, hey, I'm actually feeling a bit off at the moment, And that to me is just those little things that you need to kind of improve in your day-to-day in order to, manage your relationships better and also manage your own mental health and well-being,
And I guess there's nothing wrong with that either. We all have off days, right? We all go through little patches or different stresses, in day-to-day life, because there's a lot of them that can sort of take you down that path a little bit. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with sort of opening up and, admitting to that and just verbalising it as much as anything, just to get it out there.
And I think that you went to that event that Dr. Happy spoke at.
I was just about to get to that.
Yeah,
Bloody
no,
go. Dr. Happy. We've got Dr. Clive Williams and Dr. Happy and the famous Jeanette Jeffkins.
Yeah. So at that event that we had with where Dr. Happy spoke, he talked about the importance of you don't need to be happy all the time in order to get through the day to day. In fact, it'd be a little bit weird if you were happy all the time. So.
Well, but that's
like the checkout guy at Woolworths we've got at the moment. He's always far too happy. I'm like,
I feel a little bit uncomfortable with those people.
Yeah, please calm down, buddy. I love your enthusiasm, but come on. No, I don't have a rewards card.
And I don't want an Ushi.
Actually, off topic a bit, Ushies. So the other day I was like, oh no, I don't want them. They're single-use plastic. And he goes, no, they're a toy. And I said, you got me, you bugger. He had that one. He had that one ready to fire. And he got me.
We'll be able to edit that bit out anyway. So Dr. Happy, just give us a bit of background on Dr. Happy, because anyone who's called Dr. Happy or known as Dr. Happy, you think, well, I don't know. How do I handle this?
What's going on
here? What pills does he
describe?
So I came across, like I do with most of the events for Blokepedia, through social media. I came across this guy, Dr. Happy. It's a little bit catchy, I need to find out more. So he actually did a podcast with Gus Warland.
Oh, Triple M.
Yeah. So they
Gotcha for life.
Yeah. So they did a podcast together talking about men's health. I don't know whether, I forget what it's called, something about, be a man or something like that. Talking about all those kind of issues that we deal with, talking about mental health and depression, and got these guys to come in and listen to that. And I thought, this guy's pretty interesting. So called him up and told him about Blokepedia, and he just loved the idea of it. So actually paid for himself to come up to Brizzy and be part of the event, which was just absolutely lovely of him. But he's about positive psychology. But he suffers depression and anxiety himself, so he talks about it in quite an open way, and he's definitely doesn't hide any of that. So he's quite relatable in that regard. Yeah, lovely guy.
I think it's important that people show that other side of have down days. That's one thing that I've said before. It annoys me. Like, you see blokes like Tony Robbins and Gary Vaynerchuk and all these guys, and they're just on all the time, and it's like, come on. You're not on all the time. There's days where it's just a shit day. And we need to hear that, because people can't really relate, because then people are like, oh my God, is this? I'm not happy all the time. I'm like, oh. So I think that's the big disconnect. It's good. It's good to hear that a bloke like Dr. Happy is showing that side. I think it's bloody imperative.
You'd have to think at those Tony Robbins events, like, shit must go wrong. With that many people, something must go wrong sometime, or someone in the crowd must,
Oh, but surely he gets home from work one day and he's just got this shits. He's just had a shitty day. I want to hear about that. I want to, I just, like, that's the sort of stuff. I think people need to be a bit more transparent.
Yeah.
And then you're a bit more relatable.
It does lull you into this kind of, false ideal around what it is to, live life on a day-to-day. If people like him are going, it's all about being full of energy and high on life and happy all the time, then it's luring you into.
Well, then people can worry that, oh shit, I don't feel like that.
Is that bad? It's unattainable. I'm never going to be able to achieve that level of happiness. Like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah,
I think. Then you wonder why people close down when shit is going down in their life, because the reality that they think is that you're not allowed to be like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's just being more open. Everyone's just got to be a bit more honest.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've just grabbed off a little quote here off your website. In a society where so many men struggle to speak up when times are tough, Blokepedia is providing a sounding board that can save lives. An incredible movement, and one I'm proud to say I'm a part of. It's Benny Alexander.
So
former Wallabies, Brumbies player.
Yep.
He's a big prop, wasn't he?
Yeah. Oh, he's trimmed down big time now. He's doing that. What's it? The park run.
Oh,
So he's
yeah.
gone from being 110k or whatever to, I don't know, 70.
Yeah, right.
Jeez.
So
he's probably not 70.
back to a bit of a natural weight, or something trimmed down. So how important do you think it is to have blokes like Ben Alexander, who is a Wallabies prop, talking openly about mental health and emotional intelligence? How important do you think it is for people that are relatable to be having these conversations?
I'd love it if we were in a society where that wasn't needed, but I think at the moment it is, that we need people like Benny and Shillo and these other guys coming out and actually talking about, being vulnerable, like you're saying,
Yeah.
And Benny's a lovely fella, and he's got a pub down in Canberra that he's put on a couple of Blokepedia events for down there.
Awesome.
And he's just one of the world's really good men, and it is important, and I'm really grateful for the support of the likes of Benny when it comes to Blokepedia, because I think guys see it and go, oh, geez, he's a big hard rugby player, but he's telling me that he's had times when he struggles, or that he's very much an advocate for having a good diet and living a healthy lifestyle through running and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and that all is linked to your mental health anyway. So, for me, really important that those guys are involved.
I was listening to something on the weekend about sports people now. They're as famous as they've ever been, and they've got more money than they've ever had, but they're as unhappy as they've ever been, because at the moment they're scrutinised constantly, and you can't be a famous athlete now without just getting roasted.
Yeah.
If you do stuff right, hopefully you do, that's great. But if you put a foot wrong, whether you're a coach or a player or whatever, you just so scrutinised and just absolutely roasted in the media.
Yeah, well, Ben was actually spoke about that at an event that we had. He, I think he was playing for Australia against the British Lions, and they come around those games every 12 years or so.
Yeah.
And he had an absolute shocker of a match apparently, and got sent off for whatever reason. Apparently just got hounded over social media, all sorts of nasty stuff said to him. And he said he was talking about how much that impacted him. That people think that they're hiding behind, their computer screens and giving someone that they've never met an absolute earful because, he had a bit of an off game, So, I do feel sorry for these athletes, because they are under such scrutiny these days. And they're thrusted into the limelight. No one really gives them, a proper education around, this is what to expect, and they shouldn't have to expect that anyway.
They're made famous because they're good at footy. They're not made famous because they know how to talk to the media or to manage a social media account or anything like that.
Yeah.
These are just the byproduct of fame that you have to learn pretty bloody quickly on your feet. So I've got you've got one coming up, a Blokepedia event.
Yes.
With Occy.
Occy, yeah.
Mark Occhilupo. Classic, bloody famous Aussie surfer.
One of the greatest sporting comebacks I think we've probably seen in the modern era. Was a bit of a prodigy surfer as a young teenager. Ended up kind of disappearing for a while and putting on a lot of weight, and I think had his own demons to battle. Lost all the weight, came back, and the following year ended up becoming world number one. So looking forward to hearing his story. It's got
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you come upon Occy? How did you find him?
So B. Durbidge, who is speaking at the event as well, pretty much got his contact details off.
Right.
B.
Do you know any other surfers?
It's a warm lead.
He got a cold call from me one night. And did the spiel about Blokepedia, and he was all on board with it. So
It's awesome, man.
yeah, you'd really be surprised by the amount of guys who go, "Yep,
Yeah.
I'm in."
Yeah.
So so we've got Occy, Bede is speaking. Got the head psych for Surfing Australia as well, Jason Patchell.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and Matty Elliott, who
Oh, yeah. Penrith Panthers coach?
yep. Now he's director of Zenergy. They do health and wellbeing. They've got a really good program they run out of Sydney called the Change Room. So working with people who've suffered from PTSD, and I guess doing a lot of work with them to get them back into the workforce and stuff. So Matt's really keen to get raw and real and have some good discussion around how we can improve our lives through being more aware of our emotions and how to manage those.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Very important now, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So it should be a cracker of an event, and it's at Bolter Brewery.
I was going to say, my favourite beer, although lots of people's favourite beer at the moment, at XPA. And that's,
I haven't tried it yet. I drink the Captain Sensible.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Very good call.
Happy Captain Sensible. What the bloody hell's going on here?
Forming our own superhero alliance.
So that's down at Bolter Brewery. Where is it again? On the just on the coast, Currumbin, yeah.
On the Gold Coast.
Mick Fanning's got a piece of that pie, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah, there's Mick, Joel Parkinson as well.
Cool.
And a few other guys. Yeah.
So I just wanted to, because I met someone really awesome at the Blokepedia event that I went to, and I'd met her before, but one of the speakers at the event that I was at was Jeanette Jifkins. Jeanette Jifkins is on the chair of Men's Line Australia.
Yep.
She was just amazing, but when she spoke, first off, she was a female at a Blokepedia event, so I probably wasn't expecting that. Nor was I expecting her to tell such a profound story of personal experience of her own life and stresses and struggles and, things that she's been through as a professional working woman with kids and family and a relationship. And she spoke so honestly and openly. And I felt that out of the three speakers, I related to Jeanette Jifkins more than anyone.
Yeah.
And it was just profound. So I guess these Blokepedia events, are they female friendly?
Yeah. I think we've only had the one event that's been a men's only, and that was in Claremont, and that was the community there decided that that's what they wanted to do, and that's fine. But for me, the Blokepedia events are for everyone. I want them to be inclusive, so that if women, because ultimately it's the women in our lives that can encourage us and be our biggest supporters when we're having, when we're in tough times and stuff. So, and they want to figure out how us blokes work, So I really encourage women to come along to these events.
That's a big thing. They want to figure out how we tick, because we were on a podcast the other week, A Splash of Colour, with Laura and Pauline, and they wanted to know what can women do for their partners, because they just don't understand how to help them. Men who are going through things, what can the females in their lives do to help support them? And it's a tough question.
Yeah.
Because the people who most care about you, your partner, spouse, wife, whatever, often they're not the person who can help you at all, because men can feel nagged and can feel, just a bit boxed in a bit sometimes, and they can need their space and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think there's a lot of females out there who really want to try to understand how they can help the men in their lives.
Yeah.
So maybe
I think that's what that event was about, wasn't it? It was supporting the men in their lives.
Yeah, exactly.
And so many, I think, probably 20% of our people who get involved are women, and wanting to know exactly that, well, how do I support my husband or my brother? And just like guys do, they want to know, well, how do I bloody
spend our lives trying to figure out the opposite sex? What is going on here? Good.
So true though. What about with getting married?
Yep.
I say, so did you get pre-marriage counselling or anything with your fiance or now wife?
No.
Didn't do anything like that.
Just jumped in. We actually had quite a. I think we were engaged for 4 months.
Yep.
Yeah, which was quite cool actually, because we didn't have to deal with all the stress of the lead up to the wedding for too long.
There's no time. There's no time to have second thoughts in 4 months either. Like that's just like quick done.
No cooling off period.
Yeah.
Straight in. Yeah. No.
Did you do it?
Yeah, we did pre-marriage counselling. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was really good because that was the biggest thing. Like we're just talking about here with Laura and Pauline. It was communication.
Yeah.
People don't know how to communicate. So it was sort of that was the biggest thing I took out, because the little things that would end up into a little bit of Barney, it was like, oh, that was just that little tweak. I just need to understand why you do that. And it's just people don't realise.
Yeah, yeah.
And like that was the greatest thing, you know. And like I just can't talk highly enough of how important it is, to find out more about each other through a third person. Like I thought it was fantastic.
I know exactly why he thought it was so good as well, because he identified that in his relationship, well, in his life, one of the most important things to him is his time to sit down and watch South Sydney Rabbitohs play.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, how do I communicate this?
Yeah, how do I convince that
my
this
head
is...
bitten
Yeah.
And that's like a non-questionable. It's just like, that's my one thing.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
That has
whatever.
to happen. But you know what I mean? Like it's just an interesting...
Yeah, and that's important in itself, isn't it? To actually go, hey, this is really important. I want that.
It's downtime.
Yeah, bit of downtime, yeah.
Even though it can frustrate the hell out of you if they're not playing
I
well,
can come
like-
out of the back end of it just... heated, like red face, and I get right into it. Like I'm obsessed. But that's my release. That's my time out for the week. That's like my 80 minutes of my time. So yeah, it's
so
really
the off season's not much chop.
the off season's crap.
Actually has to talk.
No, it's good.
Now we were out in Comet earlier this year.
Yes.
We were out there for the Comet Barrel inaugural ball, and they were raising a whole lot of money at that event to provide mental health services to the area. And now I hear that Blokepedia is getting a run out in Comet.
Yeah, we're what an amazing community that is out there. What is it? The Comet River Social
River Social Association, CRSA.
And I think run by community people there.
All young people. And there's heaps of people, like 20 young
they're all
people
under
on
25.
the board. Yeah.
Heaps
It's
of them.
fantastic.
It's brilliant.
It's just amazing, and for these guys to get
Community
in touch.
again.
Yep.
Community.
And they belong to this
They do,
association,
they
right?
do.
It's their bit of sense of belonging there.
And give back to more people.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
No, so we've been invited out there as part of I think our event will be coinciding with the Comet Camp Draft. So
Yep.
We've got Dave Shillington going out as well as Dr. Clive Williams, and we'll do one of our Blokepedia style events. It'd be interesting to see the turnout there and the engagement. There's a little bit of fear in going out to these places because it's a little
You
bit...
never know how you'll be perceived.
Yeah, exactly. But then probably just like we did out in Claremont, that actually quite surprised by the level of engagement there. But yeah, really looking forward to that event, and we're hoping to do some school visits there as well because they've had a real issue out in that community in Emerald, I think, with youth suicides.
They have,
which is why Headspace is moving out there, and I think you were saying before when we were off air that these guys, that association
Rural
is
Aid.
actually
Was it Rural Aid?
Rural Aid, yeah.
Rural Aid.
raised some money and stuff. So
Yeah, so they've been running, from what I understand, running a couple of programs in schools and all that sort of stuff, and
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, isn't it? And getting in at a young age, and again, we touched on emotional intelligence before, but it's just never something that was ever taught at school. It was all about book smarts, right?
yeah,
And that has the proof is in the pudding that has gotten people nowhere, right? Really, it might get you a big fat paycheck at the end of the day, but does it allow you to feel fulfilled?
yeah.
Or does it, allow you to achieve, your real sort of desires and purpose? I think probably not. So
Yeah, I think purpose is a big one. Yeah, you could be earning the big bucks, and if you're not actually feeling like you're contributing to society or providing value and getting purpose for your own life, then
And I think that's such a common thing for blokes to feel as well, especially when you might have a young family or a house, mortgage, all this sort of stuff to continue to provide. I do think that lots of people probably feel like they get stuck in a scenario where they might not be that happy in their job, and it's certainly not fulfilling, but it's just putting the food on the table, and you're sort of just surviving, and you're just getting by, and it's not, you're not, as you said, Ed, not flying out of bed, you're not jumping out of bed to get there in the morning, and that's a sad cycle to be in. I think it's a really necessary in a lot of situations because blokes have got to do what they've got to do. But it'd be awesome if there was a way for a lot of people out there to find their purpose and what makes them tick. And because it's true, I mean, like even for us, I was a carpenter for 10 years, and when I left school, it was an honest job. I knew this is a great, I was interested in the trades. You'd always have work, and getting a trade is great. And all through my time, really enjoyed learning it. Really enjoyed applying my skills, and going to work. But it never felt like I never felt completely fulfilled. You get that sense of self-satisfaction when you've finished a job or whatever, and you can look and you do get that satisfaction of seeing what you've built or done. That's definitely there, but probably always felt a little bit like, oh, I feel like there's something else out there for me. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, and it's probably very common. And then gone through, you know, a couple of unfortunate events, and then I've gone and made trade mutt, and I feel like I've landed sort of where I was supposed to be, and suddenly feel really fulfilled. And suddenly, it's like it doesn't feel like work anymore. It's easy to get out of bed. You can fly out of bed. I look forward to, you know, having you come in here today and have a yarn with you, because like that's an awesome thing to do, you know, day to day. So
you're right. Well, same with me. Like I look back on my last probably 12 months working in carpentry and how much I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I could drag myself out of bed at 6, 6:05, hit snooze 35 times until, it was the last minute I had to get out of bed. But now, I'm jumping out of bed at 5:30, like going down to the gym, running a few K on the treadmill, go for a swim in the pool, do a bit of meditation in the sauna. I bloody love it. Fantastic, an hour in the morning and in here, bounced around all day. Yeah, get to speak to people like you, and it's great.
But there's a sense of giving back, I think, isn't there? Like, I get a real profound sense from some of the stories that we get, about trade mutt and different people out there that, we've helped. There's a real strong sense of actually, making a bit of a difference and giving back. And, do you feel that with Blokepedia? Do you feel that you're actually, giving?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I think, because not everyone's going to be in a position where they can start a trade mutt or a Blokepedia or whatever that might be. But if you kind of operate on a more micro level and go, you know what, I actually want to get that buzz from giving back through, working at a charity or helping out my neighbour. It could be something quite simple that gives you that feeling because, unfortunately everyone's got bills to pay and mortgages and responsibilities of adult life. But if you kind of look at, well, where am I going to get my feeling of purpose from and find that, or where am I going to find that sense of community? We'll go out and look for that. It might not be joining a gym. It might be bowling, joining a bowls club or whatever it might be. But you just got to find what works for you.
It might be joining the Mount Isa Line Dancing Club.
Oh, I saw those videos.
Mate, unreal.
We were just so...
We were mesmerised.
You didn't have a boogie?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we tried. I can't remember what song it was now.
But by that time, the two-step, something about that. But by that time, when we got to have a chance of boogieing, when you were told to turn left, everyone turned right, and everyone was banging into each other. And
the wine help with that, or
I suppose so. It was a bit like that. Yeah. So
wine dancing.
What wine dancing?
So edited out too.
Josh, what's the big picture? Like where's Blokepedia headed? What do you want to achieve?
Yeah, for us we've evolved from the blog side into the events now. And now we're looking at I guess working with organisations and communities to deliver programs that I guess take what Blokepedia is about and give people the tools and resources to be able to, I guess, have those conversations that matter is what we call them. Have those, but also the tools to navigate personal life as well. How we deal with change, whether it's dealing with change like fatherhood and new relationships, etc. as well. So starting to work with organisations as already, which is exciting. Awesome. And just obviously more of that because like you guys, we're a social enterprise, so I guess part of our profits go back into running these events that we put on in communities because the tickets we sell them pretty cheap so that we can actually make them accessible to people because we don't want, I guess... be
priced out of the market, people, be priced out of it.
That we don't want finance to be a barrier to coming along to an event. So, and sometimes, people are struggling financially, and if they go, well, can't afford the $70 ticket, then we're not going to.
Yeah, and I guess the other side is
$20.
Yeah, right. And you need to be able to make money to be able to continue to do the good that you want to do, isn't it? It's always a bit of a balancing act because it'd be great if you could afford to. Make trade mutt shirts for free and get it out there or put on events for free and, get people along. But, to do good, you need to make it sustainable somehow.
Exactly, and that's what it's about, is being sustainable. The events are fantastic, and that's why the idea for programs and to actually come up with something that is actually a bit of a legacy left after, so if we deliver an event, they go, well, that's great, and you kind of have that good feeling for a couple of days. But
What
then
now?
Yeah. So I think it's important to kind of give those tools that people can access down the track as well.
Well, it looks like it's all going in a really great direction, and I love it. I love the event that I went to. I'd love to go down to the Bolter Brewery. I'd love to go there just to check out the brewery. But if there's a Blokepedia event on,
2 wins.
Even better. So that's on the next event, Wednesday, the 28th of August.
That's right. I think there's literally about 10 or 12 tickets left.
Get in quick, people.
Yeah, exactly. Hurry.
Yep. And so if anyone wants to check that out,
Yep.
check out Blokepedia on Instagram or Facebook or
We've got the website, blokepedia.com.
Yeah, we'll put some details up for that, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you in here, and can certainly say awesome to be mates with. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you, and you guys are doing amazing jobs, and really want to see more of these shirts out in the community.
Fantastic.
All right.
Great,
Thanks,
guys.
Josh.
Good on you, legend.
Cheers. Thank you.